tonight's board meeting, or Board of Education meeting. Board meetings are generally held on the third Tuesday of the month. The Board of Education is a body of school district residents elected by the community in charge of conducting school-related business. The meetings are conducted under the open meeting law, but are not open forums for the community. With that being said, visitors to these meetings are conduct themselves properly and with respect to any other individuals at the meeting. The Board of Education reserves the right to remove any individual for improper display of behavior or inappropriate language. The Board of Education will have a period of time devoted to visitor requests following any board presentations and the approval of minutes shortly after the opening of the meeting. Individuals wishing to address the board will be permitted to speak up to 3 minutes for a total of 30 minutes. When that time comes, we'll go over guidelines a little bit more closely. Yeah, I definitely can. No, I'm up. Okay. Fady, could we do roll call, please?
Mr. Swell?
Present.
Mrs. Benjamin? Here. Mrs. Emerson? Here. Mrs. Yanega? Present. Mr. Zila?
Here.
Mr. Bueller?
Present.
And Mrs. Swenson?
Here.
Okay. Rob, you're up with reports. Oh, sorry, yeah.
Yep, good evening, everybody. Thank you for being here tonight. Just a couple of quick things. I just wanted to take a moment and report a little bit about the FAQ that we put out before break. I know that was a little bit of time ago, but it went to over 1,000 people. It was put up on the website, on our social media. Got some positive feedback from individuals on the Parent Square, so it seemed to be well received. I just wanted to give a quick shout out to our boys who are at this moment have tipped off against Fillmore, and we saw a lot of upsets the last couple of weeks, so perhaps there's one in the wings tonight for our boys, and congratulations to our girls basketball team for their undefeated season as they start to go into sectionals as well. I hope everybody had a nice break, and while it's still winter out there, the daylight is actually getting a little longer, so there's definitely hope.
Okay. Fade, are there any visitors today? Okay, thank you. All right. On to the budget presentation. Oh, Julia. Yeah, next. Yes, Julia, thanks for being here tonight. We'll be in conversation shortly, I suppose. So have a great night. Thank you. On to budget presentation.
Good evening, everyone.
Thanks.
This is our second budget presentation for the 26-27 budget. As more info comes in and we refine our numbers, compared to the rollover I gave you last month, there is a little good news. We're in a little better position than what those numbers look like. So starting with expenditures, our major cost drivers, last month I had estimated about a 33% increase in health insurance. After the GAP meeting a few weeks ago, it was settled that it would be 30%. And the increase is only on the health insurance. It won't be on the vision or dental. So that helped our budget a little bit. Our liability insurance is projected to go up 11 to 13%, which is a little high. So that's going to be one of the issues we have to deal with this year. There are always annual salary increases based on contracts, which also increases our benefits. And then this year we're in a little different position, being on a contingent budget this year. Trying to return the equipment and capital outlay and bus purchases to the budget is a little more difficult since there is a disruption in the aid flow. We won't have aid from previous purchase coming in to offset current purchases, so it's like starting from scratch with that. So to get in a little deeper on the benefits, the PRS rate went up slightly this year, while TRS went down a little bit. Social Security is always the flat 7.65%. The health insurance is where we see the biggest increase, and that's not going to be exactly 30% because we're comparing the adopted budgeted number with, I'm working on actuals to try and project this year's. So that's the projection for this year. The same thing with dental and vision. Like I said, there are no rate increases, but we're working with actuals, and that depends on what employees we have and plans they're taking. The contractual benefits, those are the benefits that go to retirees or that are in contracts for vacation buyback. So you see the estimated benefits went up quite significantly from the current year. Just getting a little deeper into health insurance, this is the reason for the big increase this year. As you can see, through December, and the projections were going into January at this time as well, the loss ratio averages 110%, meaning the claims that are being paid out far exceed the premiums that are coming in. So obviously you can't continue operating at that level of loss, which is the reason for a large increase. And if you look where the arrows are, this would be the break-even points. We have 3 different plans. So the ranges of break-even versus recommended range from 27% in one plan to the middle plan is 40 or 39% to even break even. So the composite of all of them together, 30% is the recommended rate. The break-even rate would be 26%. But because of the fund balance decrease this year, we have to build back up fund balance in the healthcare plan, and that is why the 30% was recommended, and that is what was voted on and approved for the coming year. And I know these numbers are small. This presentation will be available on our website tomorrow for anybody to look at further. So getting into equipment, this is a wish list. These aren't things we're absolutely getting, but these are in discussion. And again, since equipment wasn't bought last year, these are last year's items in addition to items that would be necessary this year. So we didn't purchase any buses last year. This is the list for this year. So when you put the expenditures together, I put the rollover column in there. That was the presentation from last month, just so you could see the comparison, how the numbers have already changed as we are able to hone in on them and get a little closer to actuals. So you see our instructional salaries, and the change column and the change percent column, that's the adopted versus the estimated. That's not the rollover versus the estimated. So one to point out is our debt column. That is the debt brought on by the 2023 capital project. And you'll notice in the revenue slide that there's also building aid that is in addition, that largely offsets that increase in debt. Equipment, you'll notice I didn't put the bus purchases in there because our expenses are high as it is. We'll probably have to consider putting the buses on a separate proposition because we just can't fit them in this budget. Contractual, I haven't gone through every contractual line yet, so that is still largely an estimate. For materials and supplies, we aren't going to increase materials and supplies this year. We're going to try and make do with the same level of funding we had in the current year. BOCES is still an estimate. We still have a meeting regarding the special ed portion of BOCES, and also even when we do have numbers later, things get added and deleted during the year, so that is an estimate as well. The transfers to capital, that is our capital outlay we're hoping to return to the budget this year. So our expenditures total $28,308,589. Onto revenue. Our major sources are state aid and the tax levy, and then 6% roughly from pilots and the educational contribution. So these sources total 95% of our budget, and as you can see, state aid and the tax levy are pretty much fund our revenue. So those are the most significant sources here. So looking at pilots, we know that Plug Power will no longer be a pilot. And I have asterisks by them and Stream Data because Stream Data, we don't have an agreement in place yet, but we have verification that they will take over Plug Power's pilot for the 26-27 year. Beyond that, I'm not sure that we don't have the numbers exactly in place. But going into the 27-28 year, we do have site-year solar coming on that usually would put downward pressure on our tax cap. But with plug power coming off, we're hoping that these will regulate and not affect our tax cap too much. And we expect stream data to be an educational contribution agreement rather than a pilot, so we're hoping it won't affect our pilots. Unclassified revenue, I just wanted to go through these so you know where the rest of the revenue is coming up from. The charges for services are things like fees we collect for broken Chromebooks to get them repaired. The large portion of this is for the mechanical services we provide to a surrounding district for bus repairs. That educational agreement, that's largely Plug Powers. Stream Data is taking over that as well for the 26-27 year, so we will still be getting that funding. Interest and penalties, that's on your property taxes. Interest income, interest rates have gone down a little bit, and this is also affected by the amount of money we have on hand to invest. So I didn't want to change that too much. I think that'll settle somewhere in that area. The refunds is mostly our BOCES refund from the prior year. The sale of surplus materials, that will change if we do buy buses this year or other equipment and are able to sell equipment. That I will adjust that number based on what the plan is. The tuition is from our special ed classrooms, from students from surrounding districts attending our schools. So then we move on to appropriated fund balance, which is usually used to balance or close the gap in budgets. So this is based on whether we have a surplus or deficit and how much, and also how much of unappropriated fund balance we can keep. The comptroller recommends that 44%, that's the maximum amount. Last year, the amount we were allowed to keep was just under $1 million, based on the $24 million budget. So depending on where our budget lands this year, that number will be adjusted, which would then adjust the amount that we can use for appropriated fund balance. So as of February 13th, this is where our current budget will settle out, the projection by the end of the year. The number highlighted in green is a surplus so far, about $247,000. I estimated a $26 million budget next year. That is just for illustrative purposes, to multiply by the 4% so we know what the unappropriated fund balance is. And that's one of the two numbers in blue. So the appropriated fund balance, as of now, that would be available for next year's budget is about $190,000. In comparison, in prior years, not counting the current year, the contingent budget, but the year before, the appropriated fund balance was almost $1 million used. The year before that, it was over $600,000, and the year before that, it was $600,000 plus use of reserves. So this is a small amount. This could increase or decrease depending on how the rest of the year goes, if there are unanticipated expenses, or maybe we'll have some savings in place. Good news about our reserves is with those interest rates, we're expecting about $200,000 increase overall in the reserves. The interest made from reserves stays in the reserve, so that unless we apply reserves to close the budget, this money can't just be simply moved over to the general fund. So getting to our tax cap, if you look where the yellow arrow is, our limit would be 6.2%. So that's the maximum amount we could ask the public for without overriding the tax cap. Normally our there would be capital exclusions that would back out of this formula, but because of the contingent budget, we had no capital exclusions. I did double check with the state comptroller that we simply don't back out that number. They went in and reset our tax cap for that amount to be 0. So this is the correct calculation for the numbers we have now, the pilots this year, as we know, the pilots that are expected. So we are at that 6.2%. If you remember the projection last year, we were expecting a slightly negative tax cap this year. So being in a contingent budget and having those numbers reset, it was a little helpful. Projecting the tax cap going out, I just wanna say there are so many variables in this, it's hard to predict. The things to point out is the pilots. It looks like the pilots, will stay pretty stable going forward, so hopefully that won't adjust our tax cap too much. The other thing is the capital exclusion, so depending on what buses we purchase each year, our debt, those numbers are gonna change. The capital exclusions I have in there now are the known numbers as of now. And you can see the line right above where I have many variables, the blue bar, that's the projection right now. So this year is the 6.2%, and in the following years, it's between 2 and 3%. But like I said, there are so many variables, this is really just an estimate. So our tax levy history, you can see the yellow bars are the allowable tax levy according to the tax cap formula. And the blue bars are what we asked the public for, or where it ended up. And you can see last year, we had that negative cap, so that's the yellow bar way below the line. And then because of the contingent budget, we had the 0% increase, so that's why the blue bar isn't below there with it. This year, we have 6.2%, so that yellow bar is pretty far up on the chart, and we'll have to make a decision of what our proposed levy increase will be. But you can see, starting in 12-13, most years, we were well under the tax cap. So putting together our revenue, we have, again, that state aid, that 1.4 million change is mostly due to the additional building aid for the capital project that is ongoing. The tax levy, just for illustrative purposes, I left at 0, or 0 increase. So that's the same amount we levied in this year. That will obviously be adjusted as we work through this process. The pilots are gonna be the exact amount. And I showed you the slides for the unclassified aid. So right now our subtotal is 25,646,434. We would still need to figure out how much fund balance we can appropriate and use the reserves. Remember that fund balance number right now is sitting around 190,000. So to compare our revenues versus expenditures, currently we have a budget gap of about 2.6 million. We do have more work to do in honing in on these numbers. You can see our next slide. The salaries, the instructional and non-instructional salaries here include all positions that are in the budget this school year. So there is attrition, we do have people retiring. As far as, at this point in time, we haven't taken any of those salaries out of the budget. So by the March presentation, we'll have better figures on that and decisions made on who we're replacing or not. So to close the budget gap, as I mentioned earlier, a separate proposition is finance buses. So we would need voter approval for that. That would increase our debt. So that line would change, but it would also increase our aid in future years, and hopefully we'd get back on a cycle where we could purchase buses through the general fund budget without having to fund them through debt service, which is an additional expense. Like I mentioned, we have attrition, and we would still be reviewing staffing and other efficiencies. That liability insurance that is increasing so much this year, I'm getting quotes from another entity regarding the whole liability package. That's a process in a lot of applications, so we'll see where that comes in. And then next month I will do another projection on where we'll end up this year with our fund balance, and hopefully get a better number, what kind of fund balance we can apply. The additional notes, as I mentioned before, removing the capital and equipment expenditures, they're hard to get back in the budget now because of that disruption in the aid flow. And also there is an anticipated BOCES capital project. So our gross share of that project would be about 1.6 million. After aid, it's about 755,000. So that is also something we'd have to finance. And I don't have the date for when that will be voted on or the timeline for that yet. important dates coming up. We have budget workshops in March and April. Again, the budget vote, May 19th. If anybody has any questions or comments, you can email us at budget@oahornets.org. And again, this presentation will be on our website shortly as well.
How many years do we have to go out till our next debt drops off?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
The debt service, the schedule.
It goes out. Uh, 2041 to 2042 so far.
So unfortunately, I think we have two things obviously hurting us, is that, we picked up that debt, which was sold to the public a couple years ago as a tax neutral capital project that we're now seeing that it's not, we're paying for it.
It was to be tax neutral with the state of the budget then, because there was a plan transferred to capital each year that would absorb the difference in aid, and the cost of the project. So at that time, with the numbers rolling over, it was tax neutral.
But then obviously we have years of us not raising taxes,
Yes.
I was one of the guilty ones of that, of just, we wanna go out as low as we want. We had a smart guy named Dan Groff that sat on this board at one time.
Yeah.
He always told us, you guys gotta raise the limit to the limit, you gotta raise it to the limit. Look at Dan. like he was
I would
raising
agree
it.
with Dan.
Yeah. And, now we can see that's catching up. Can you go back to that slide that shows what the actual increases were?
I think it was before that time, 0.9% is what our average increase was.
So even with that, I mean, you look at what we've actually raised each year, and, sooner or later, we gotta pay the bill. And unfortunately, from a business aspect, I probably would come back to you and say, we gotta cut the budget 10%. Unfortunately, we have contracts, and, most of our contracts are the biggest line items that you can't just go in and cut. So even if you cut 10% of the things that you could cut, it still doesn't get us where we need to be. So I think that's some things that people gotta understand, is there's contracts that we're reliable for, that we really, at this point in time, have no control over. And those are the biggest increases there, but when you do look at the history of what we have raised taxes, it's been very minimal.
It compounds year to year since the prior year levy begins the next year's tax cap formula.
And I think anybody that's looked at their home budget since, let's call it 2020, what expenses have increased, we've never even followed that trend well either, so. I think we still need to do the best we can, we continue to cut what we can, but I think we also need to understand that, we've kicked the can down the road for many years, and it's unfortunately come to a
Well, I think we're in a situation too with, costs of, that we didn't incur last year, like with the buses, and then, now how do we recoup that? And that's gonna be a hard thing, I don't know when you're talking about buses, is it one bus, is it two? I thought last year was 2 buses. And then with the capital outlay, that money is gone, and we have to rebuild that, because that capital outlay has gotten us a lot of, like, well-needed improvements in this building, that people don't realize, what they are and what they've been, but we've lost it, we have to bring that back, to get that capital outlay rolling again, so, it's tough, right, because if we're up against the diesel drop-off date and the electric, switch over, maybe we don't think so. This is a hard, this is really hard, it's a tough spot, that we're in. Just, yeah.
So, just a couple of things. There is a gap There's two sides to the gap, obviously. There's your revenues, which we have to make some decisions about. And Pete, that's exactly what you're talking about, and also our expenditures. And as Laura said, we have not, not that we haven't looked at positions, but from a budget perspective, we have not, looked at positions that we may not replace due to attrition. So that's something that we have to, that we are going to continue and really refine over the next few weeks and have a more refined calculation for you at the March meeting. So, and look at other efficiencies as well. And in terms of the buses, we have a number, a lot of the equipment and the buses, that's the wish list. It's like, this is what people want / need, right? Because this is need as well. But then, like, what can we really prioritize, right? So there's a way to look at, really discerning that as well.
Can I say something? So real quick, I just wanted to point out that last slide there, and just the whole setup of tonight as well for anyone that's watching. This was something that was asked of us last year when we were going through the budget process, was to just be more transparent and really open the floor for communication. And I'm hopeful that now that the budget has been presented and people will have time to take a peek at the board meeting tonight and really digest and look at these numbers, and then join us at that March 17th or April 14th meeting with any questions that you may have. I think information is power when you're making decisions like this, and hopefully, this year we've listened and we're doing a better job in making sure that we're transparent and communicating everything with everyone. But again, just to point out something that Pete said earlier, at the end of the day, you can't tell me one expenditure in your home, one bill has not gone up. You haven't seen an increase in your own insurances, your mortgage, your fuel, your water, your gas, whatever the case may be, the cost of living has gone up. So to expect there not to be an increase in cost of living for a school is kind of crazy as well. So it's just the cost of doing business, and the cost of living right now is more expensive. So hopefully everyone takes that into consideration when you start to go through these numbers and start to make comparisons. But definitely make sure you come out and ask these questions before just showing up on May 19th to vote, or use that email as well.
Anything else, guys?
I think I have one thing. So on the slide with equipment and bus purchases, is that the slide from last year that we were missing in our budget? Or is this something new that we've added, that maybe we've looked at and said these are definitely a necessity?
This is a combination of the requests that were made last year that were cut from the budget when it was defeated twice and we went to a contingent budget and couldn't buy equipment, plus additional needs and asks for the current year. So that's why there are 5 buses instead of 2 or 3. The fitness center and gym banners, the furniture was in last year's. I think the livestock scale was in last year's budget too. Carrying cows were. The fuel management system is new. It was in need last year, but that could be kicked down the road a little bit, if you will. So that's why it's in this year's budget. A few of the maintenance equipment was in last year's budget. I believe one of them, the tractor, I think is in one of the tractors.
The vent track is new.
Yeah.
Zero turn was there last year.
The cameras.
What about the mower for the slopes? Is that one new? The mower for the slopes?
Yeah, that's the slope by the stands going out to, it's very steep.
Is that new?
It's new this
Yeah.
year, as of this year though. I don't know if there's an alternative. Like I said, this is just the initial list. It doesn't necessarily mean everything will be put
I
in.
was gonna ask, have you done any needs assessments for the elementary? Because I don't see anything on the elementary level here.
There were no requests
No
so
requests?
far.
Okay.
No.
Alright. You are budget friendly over there. wanna make sure you get credit.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Laura.
So much. On to the minutes. Be it resolved that the minutes of the January 21st, 2026 regular meeting and the February 4th, 2026 special meeting be approved. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Can I get a second? Was that you, Cap, down there? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Approval of minutes, item 6, be it resolved that after an audit of the bills, payment of the warrants, and internal claims auditor reports be approved. Can I get a motion? Thanks, Pete. Can I get a second? Thank you, Mallory. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. On to item 7, it's the policy number 5840, artificial intelligence, second reading. We discussed this a little bit at our last meeting, and Mallory, we were kind of waiting to see if you had any thoughts weighing in on this or not.
I'm good with it.
Yeah.
If it's all on me, I'm good with it. Looks great.
I like the way it reads. I think it's subjective enough for the teachers to make educated decisions based on what's best for their students and what's best for them. It allows administrators the flexibility, and let's be honest, it's 2026. It's time to start looking at, it's here whether you like it or not, and these kiddos need to learn the safe way how to use, modern technology. And I was also delighted to hear that Rob was very much involved in this because he is our guru as well. So I think it's time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I asked for the second read too, and I reread it. I like how it has a verbiage where there's going to be guidance, teaching for the teachers to be able to use it appropriately because it is going to be in everyday life. And it's all about maintaining the integrity of the topics that are being learned. So they're actually retaining the material and not just using this generative AI to do the work for them. So I like it.
I agree, and I think the one thing too is like to continue on that train of thought is that how we talk about this in the business world is often how these things are eventually going to be experiences that the students have with this type of work, and I think it's just important to understand the limitations. So I appreciated that it addressed things like copyright and bias, which are two huge topics that we're talking about when we're in this space. But I also like that it wasn't like hands down you can or you can't use it or only specific use cases. I think over time those are going to probably be spaces that this evolves into, but because so much is still so new, I think like even in conversations with my own kids, we're talking about how you can use AI to actually learn new information, and I love to hear more about what we're doing in these spaces to support teachers, because if you're not in it every day, it's really, really hard to learn what's happening. And like my oldest son will tell me, well, we can't use AI, and I said, yeah, but you can use AI to learn. There's no rules against that part of it. And tools like Notebook.LM, which are free Google tools, are really great ways to take like all the links that they're reading topics from and pull that information and curate it into one space where they can learn in the way that's best for them. Like you can get audio recordings of what that content is, so it's in like a podcast format. And we did it with a project my son was working on, and they're killing me if he knows I said this, so we'll repeat this time. But it was so cool to see him retain the information differently because he is an auditory processor versus a reader. So it's just seeing the ways that it can help divergent thinkers or people with special, use cases for how they need to absorb that information, really retain it and gain more knowledge is awesome. So I love that it wasn't so restrictive in that way, but overall looks really good. I think as time goes on, it's going to evolve. I've spent too much time here, but if I can be a resource for anyone, I'm happy to do it. Super fun, all the days.
Well, I'd like to be resolved that the Board of Education approves policy 5840, artificial intelligence, to be approved as attached. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Maria, and then Pete, second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Laura, any updates tonight other than the great work you just did?
Well, I guess with the series of unanticipated financial challenges this year, I was happy to see it at least projecting the fund balance. As of now, we still have, while it's rather small, a surplus. So that's
tighter than what we've seen before?
We were in a worse position last year,
Is that
so,
right? Yeah.
yes, at this time of year,
Yeah.
yes, so,
Okay.
this was nice to see.
Good. Thanks, Laura.
The miracles, by
Yeah. Lynn, any updates?
My office went through a Medicaid training document through the state. It was a voluntary process you do every 4 to 5 years. The process is to help you get ready for any future audits. They do random samples of our Medicaid billing. Usually for Oakfield, it's OT, PT, and speech are our primary focuses. We don't have the same certification for the counseling at this point. Overall, we did really well. There were a couple minor things for us to be considerate of starting July 1. Some of the wording for the way they write their scripts needs to be adjusted. There's a lot of wording that says per their IEP. That's just some language they want to change. So overall, we did really well. I'm really happy to report that we are collecting a little bit more money right now than we were last year. So when we nag parents to sign all the things in the scripts, we do appreciate it because at the end of the day, it does benefit our district.
Great, thank you. Connie, any updates?
The world of curriculum is ever evolving in New York State, as we've talked about many, many times. New York's Inspires plan is still in the works. The state recently put on a presentation that we collected at various BOCES, similar to when we did the literacy briefs, about pre-K through 5 in New York Inspires and what that might look like. And it was a very broad overview. I think what many of us were expecting a little bit more granular information, and it was more talking about the need for project-based learning, which we know from all the work that's we've done at the high school level so far, that is where we're going. But it's good to start those conversations. There's still the talk about our climate education and our financial literacy. We're waiting for some clarifications. There's a little bit of, not controversy, but conflicting information that's come from the state. Oh, it's a full credit, it's half a credit. It can be embedded, it has to be standalone. So we're still waiting for that to parse out. March, I don't have the exact date in March, but March is the kind of deadline looming that we've been told when New York Inspires plan will be implemented or will be adjusted or whatever the will be might be. So we are really looking forward to hearing from the state what that next step is, and then we as a district have already been doing groundwork looking into climate education, personal finance at both the elementary and the secondary level, how we might be able to kind of meet some of those needs, even though we're not 100% certain of the exact guidelines yet. But I think we'll be in pretty good shape with that. So, ever evolving.
Thank you, Connie. Let's see here. Heather, any updates from the elementary?
Yeah, we just had our 3rd wellness day of the year. It happened to be the day before break, so all things Valentine's at the elementary school. Kids were going outside playing in the snow, doing some root beer floats. The highlight was Mike Lamar had reached out. He had contact with a gentleman named Mark Miller. Mark was a former zookeeper who now has kangaroos living in his house with his dogs. And Mark was willing to come in with a free visit. It was a 4th grade visit, but lots of other people got to enjoy. He just has a passion for educating students with a hands-on experience. So I 100% held the kangaroo too, and the kids just loved it. So that was a super, super fun part of a really wild last day before break. And lots of fun though.
Anything in the pouch? Did you check the pouch?
Did you check?
Could you see the pouch?
Not really.
No.
Believe it or not, I did look.
Did you look?
I did.
Yeah.
I mean, you didn't notice.
They're kind of
There's
hidden.
fur. There's
Yeah.
fur.
It's really cool. They're kind of hidden. I've held a kangaroo before.
They are really amazing, and they were babies, like 1 and 2 years old, I believe he said, and they were pretty small, but the larger one was going to get to be over 6 foot tall. Like it was very, very big. Like, and he says they used to play with his dogs at home, like they all play with dogs.
Do you think like a therapy kangaroo could we have here maybe?
I'm open to it.
You think so?
Yeah.
That'd be like a first.
Come back for a board. That's what I.
He says he'll come back all the time. He goes, Mike's wife has over in Wyoming school, like that's where he visited, and he comes there a couple times a year. So I can see what we could do.
Let's get on that one. Let's do it. And then, yep, I think they're they're at the sectional game right now, Mr. Peterson, and then of course Mr. Montroy. Rob, any updates for us?
Yes, we currently have the big phone system project underway. It started Wednesday last week. Still working on it now. Happy to say that our phones are back and working again from the little 2 p.m.-ish or so outage that happened. We're working on a cellular backup plan too that is not in place yet, but it is. And the internet goes down or the service provider goes down, it'll use a combination of, I believe, T-Mobile and Verizon to give us lines outwards. So you could still make calls out, you still have calls in, but most importantly, still have 911 ability there. With it is a whole bunch of really cool features. You have the app on your smartphone so you can place and receive calls from your work phone wherever you are in the world. Teachers can get their phone calls that have been recorded with the transcripts downloaded right to them. They can still check their voicemails through Gmail for convenience. There's a whole list of positive things that it gives us by being completely web-based with it. And a good piece, I mentioned this at the admin meeting today, is $11,000 a year is what we are now going to be saving unexpectedly because we realized that we don't need to pay for what's called the Magical, it was our call recording third-party software, because the WebEx platform has that built in. And we compared the two together and it's doing what it needs to do, so we did not plan on that, but now it's $11 grand a year that we are saving. So there are some surprised and some expected things that came out of the big phone system.
Thanks, Rob. I see Mr. Reeb is here for the OATA. Any updates for us, Mr. Reeb, tonight? Okay, thank you. Let's see here. And Elijah is not feeling well, I don't believe, tonight. So on new business, be it resolved that items 9.2 through 9.6 be approved by a consent agenda. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Thanks, Maria. Thanks, Jackie. Any discussion?
Yes, you will discuss 9.7 instruction calendar.
Yes, that's, so we're going through 9.2 through 9.6.
I'm sorry.
Yep, yeah, no, you're okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. So, item 9.7 here is the instructional calendar, and I don't know, we probably can't get it up here. If you guys have had a chance or an opportunity to look at it.
Yep.
I guess for me, when I do look at it, hold on, let me pull it up here for a second. I apologize.
The only thing I don't see are the conference days for the students.
The conference days?
Yeah, we usually have those marked off, in December and March, if I'm correct, for the elementary school. And I don't see them on this calendar.
I guess I didn't even think about the conference days.
So those are superintendent conference days.
Parent-teacher conference days you're referring to?
Yeah.
I don't know that they were initially on it, they came later.
I think once the calendar's approved, then we look at what dates work best for that.
Yes.
All right.
Well, that's how I've done it in the past.
So the half-days are done after the fact?
Because
After
I
this
feel
is
like it was
approved, yeah.
already done.
Well, I think it was by the final one.
Okay.
And it initially comes out, and we get approval, and we work out what those dates are, and we head on.
So it's obviously a later start this year. It's the 8th. And historically, maybe I'm way off, but I always have felt that we've had the day after Labor Days off. At
That's
least
right.
for students, and then students come the following day. And this calendar here has us coming, so Labor Days is Monday the 7th, and then the 8th would be our first day of school. For me, I don't know if I love that idea.
It's just historically, traditionally, we've always come on the Wednesday.
Yeah.
There's always been a day in between.
Isn't it pre-K that actually starts on Thursday? Versus
It'll start the
Wednesday?
second day, whatever the second day.
Which is
Which would be
typically
Thursday.
Which is typically Thursday.
So usually that Tuesday,
There'd be no kids.
no
but
kids,
teachers
but
would be
faculty is here.
Right? Or you're
Well-
right.
We've done that in the past, yes.
Right. And then I don't know if that would adjust the February break or not. I just feel like it's such a,
Well-
I wish we see it.
Well, the teachers may have, the way that we have it right now, the teachers would not have to be there on that Tuesday because they're already accounted for on the 31st, the 1st, first and the second. So it would just be basically a day off, but we'd have to find it from we'd have to reduce a day somewhere else just because of the calendar. To restore that student day that we'd be losing. So we have to swap the Tuesday, which is currently in this calendar, which is a student day,
Right.
with a day off that is not a student day yet. So it could be like February 17th, right? If you shorten that break even more, we could swap that.
So you're saying Justin still want Tuesday off? You want to start on Tuesday?
Yeah, no, Labor Days will be over with that Monday.
Labor Days is that Monday. I think the issue this year that many districts are facing is how late Labor Days is this year.
Right,
Yes.
right,
sure.
that is
You
the
know,
issue, right,
so-
Maria, but like, I think for our community, it's a little bit more, it's different, right? Like, I don't think Alexander has to worry, and there's nothing against Alexander, I'm just saying that they don't have this historical celebration of a village and a community the way in which we do, and I don't wanna not honor that celebration and have kids' day restricted the day prior to that, and then come in really flat the next day and make it for a really not a great start to the school year.
I think
I
people
do
go
know-
on vacations, like,
Right.
come back on Monday and then go to school.
I know in years past, there's been a couple when it's started later, the celebration, the committee has changed their fireworks to a different day so that it wasn't Monday night, knowing that Tuesday was school. So I don't know what the Betterment Committee has planned, but I do know there's been a couple years when it has started later that we were able to work with the committee and they changed their fireworks celebration so that it wasn't Monday, knowing school was Tuesday, so kids weren't tired. I don't know what the schedule looks
Isn't
like
it
this
Sunday
year.
now?
It's Sunday now,
It's
they've
already,
switched it, they've
so
already.
they've never changed it
So
back,
then
so.
that's-
Yeah, cause it went back to Sundays.
So then Monday would be a shorter evening, they usually wrap up a little earlier from like the sleep, right? So I think it could go either way. I honestly, I hear what you're saying, I know historically we've done both. I know that late start can really be tricky for 180 days, but I think we can make either work.
What's, benefit for you guys as teachers? You know what I mean? I guess
To
what
get a
would
day off.
be benefit for, either way for you, I guess that would be more about.
Well, I think what's nice for us is like that week before, we do have time to do the things that
Right.
we do. So it's not taking that time away.
Well, that's what I was
It just
thinking, cause the
looks
first and
different.
second is built in as superintendent conference days, so if we did come back on Wednesday, that would give teachers and students that buffer day between labor, correct, isn't that right? The
Yeah.
teachers technically would not be required to come on the 8th since they're
Unless
already
you did
coming the
the-
first and second.
Unless Maria did the teachers come on the second and the eighth.
Cause right now, if you look at the calendar, they're already built in for the 2 days on the first and second.
All we would do, if you wanna take the 8th off, we would find a day off somewhere else in the calendar and have it as a student day. That's all we would do. So like February 17th,
Right.
right? Because right now,
Mhm.
we took, February is not a full week as planned next year. So if we wanted to do that, we'd leave everything else the same, right?
Right.
And then just not have school on the 8th. And then have school on a day that is designated to have off. And my suggestion, if that's the direction that you wanna go, would be to make it, either leave it the way it is or make it, take away February 17th.
Well, even if you look at it on the back end, like right now, Thursday's the last day of school, so.
Well, you get into regents exams and like those other things, you just have to be a little careful of at the end,
Well, that's what I'm saying, right now, last day's on Thursday, we didn't have to push that back to a Friday, after the day off.
Yeah,
Now
and
you have Friday's a superintendent's day, that was.
And I think the other thing too, Pete, that we've been concerned about is our alignment with the BOCES program and vocational services.
Yeah,
And
that would throw
we've
it
been off before, and I've really not cared for that in the least, because it's idle time on either end, right? For kids that they're if BOCES is closed and we're open, then what do those kids that are supposed to be going to BOCES do? And the fact of the matter is nothing, right? And it's
Those
just.
just follow BOCES.
This should follow BOCES,
Yeah, BOCES may still be making a decision, say, about February, depending
Right.
on, still go what the majority of school districts are doing. And next year will be a challenge for everybody for different reasons. So, but I can tell you that, BOCES will definitely be open on the 8th.
So they start on that Tuesday. And then Rob, because I didn't hear this answer, so if we were to move the start date and just take that student day from, say, February, like you suggested, are teachers coming the 8th or are they not?
They wouldn't have to.
They wouldn't have to.
And which do you prefer? Do you prefer
Well,
to?
Rob and Trina and I had this conversation,
Yeah.
and we were actually okay with this one.
Yeah.
And I think part of our concern is that we keep shifting later and later in the year. And I think people still want a smidget of a February break. But I understand the concept that we've always had that day off in between, but I think we would be willing to walk away from that this year because it's a strange thing.
Yeah.
Because you have extra holidays as the weekend, but New Year, whatever.
And knowing that, what Lynn, you said about knowing that the late night for the celebration is Sunday night regardless.
Or it has been, it was the last 2 or 3 years that I can think of it.
Yeah, I can
Maybe-
find out.
Maybe
That's-
more.
I do think that it would be an easy conversation with the committee though. I think that they would wanna work with us and we wanna work with them, so I don't know that that would be a hard conversation for one of us to reach out to the president of the Betterment Committee this year and just have that discussion.
Yeah, because we wanna see that as successful as it possibly can be, and on the same token, have our start as successful as possible,
Well, a
so
lot of our
maximum
sports
attendance
teams
there
use that
and
for
then
fundraisers,
great
so,
start here.
there's a lot that it is a wash, each hand together to support each other for
Right,
sure, so.
right, well, we should be working together.
Well, and that Monday does tend to be like a much slower day. If they're starting to tear down, because they've gotta get back to it. That's,
And your sports are in full session, I think that Friday is Dash in the Dark, I think JC's already
Yeah.
been working on that, so.
Yeah.
The kids are gonna be amped up and ready to go, they're gonna be here for practices regardless if
Coaches
teachers are in
are
session or not.
yes,
I'm all for whatever the teachers want, whatever the teachers want.
As long as you guys are happy.
Yeah, I think this is just an unusual thing and we would be fine.
Okay.
You can't count, like a supply drop-off day or anything like that, they have to be here for a certain amount of time.
That still
in
goes
order-
into the.
That would be the Wednesday, right?
Yeah.
The Wednesday before, because we agreed to that before, right?
Right.
For the-
Yeah, I'm just looking
Yeah, we
for
were
a
trying to figure out
workaround
which
here,
day.
guys.
What's that, Adam?
We were trying to figure out, Rob and Trina and I were trying to figure out which day that would be.
Yeah, it doesn't matter,
We
Tuesday
hadn't
or Wednesday,
solidified
right?
that, but yeah, it would
That
be
was
before.
in Vatican
schools
Open
for
House,
sure.
yeah, which I felt has been nice.
Yeah.
Can I make a suggestion
Yeah.
that, we could approve this as is, have the conversation with the committee. If there's, a big change, we can bring it back in in March.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Okay?
I think that's fine, and we can even, Maria, are you still on the Betterment Committee?
I
Yeah.
work with them, yep.
So I wonder if we can.
I'm not a board member, just a volunteer,
Volunteer.
but I can reach out to Jamie, that's not a problem. And like I said, we have changed it, the last few years have actually been on Sunday, so I don't see why it would go back to Monday. And the tear down and all of that, I mean, that's something that typically happens Tuesday and Wednesday, so it's not an issue.
I just wanna be, respectful, to the hard work that goes in there, and then make sure that we have a successful start, or as successful as we can have, this year in September, and making as many people, involved in that as possible would be great. So approve it tonight, and then if, something comes up, maybe we can make an adjustment, if that's okay, I appreciate the input. Let's do this. Be it resolved, that the Board of Education approves the 2026-2027 instructional calendar, with the possibility there may be amendments, in the next meeting. Can I get a motion? Thank you, Pete, and thank you, Mallory. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Hi.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 10.1, be it resolved that the Board of Education approve the attached MOA for Jordan Yeager. Can I get a motion? Thanks, Pete, and thank you, Mallory. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. 10.2, consent agenda. Oops, sorry. Be it resolved that items 10.3 through 10.40 be approved via consent agenda. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Thanks, Cap. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Jackie. Any discussion? I think there's a couple of things that need to be identified in this consent agenda. One is the lady that's sitting over there, Mrs. Rockow. Thank you so much for the last 7 years. It's gone by quickly, Connie. It's gone by very quickly. You and I have been, since the start, I've been over here somewhere and you've been over there somewhere, and I appreciate all the effort that you've put into our school district and building our curriculum to where it is today. So thank you, and you had a lovely letter. Thank you for your letter as well. And then the other mention is from Mr. Jordan Yeager. After 10 years of service here, he is also going to be retiring, and we'd like to thank him for his service as well. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. All right, we've made to our closing remarks. Kevin, you want to start us off? I'm going to throw the microphone down this way, Kevin.
Thanks. I think tonight I want to use the phrase community lift as the theme for tonight for what I want to talk about. I was hoping for a little bit more of an attendance day so we had a further discussion and whatnot, but I think Mr. Banter's Q&A must have solved everyone's questions. It was very well done. And thank you again very much for putting the time into it, and it was very well thought out. I hope everyone has or feels a little bit more reassurance, more confidence with things that were placed there. But at the same time, it would have been nice to at least have some people in the community come in, voice their concerns or comments, anything. But I hope everyone's questions are answered. For me, I was thinking about just remember that as a board, we have to be as objective as possible, and sometimes it's really tough because we're human and we all have biases internally where we obtain them, and sometimes we tend to be subjective, but it's our job as a board to be as objective as possible, as well as our faculty and administration. And it's strange, I'm not sure it's going to sound right, but I would say I'm proud of what we did as a board and for our administrators and everyone that was involved because of the decorum that it was held through. I think Mr. Banzer had expertise in the subject, and we couldn't have had a better leader during that time. And the amount of respect you put into it, and the grace, and the cheering of the student on, and just how well we worked with the family and keeping the student in. I thought that was terrific because it was all for his benefit, you know. And the people that were involved, you have to remember that was held to a very high level of objectivity. They completed their tasks as they needed to, the policies. They did it to a T. Everything was followed perfectly. It went to the right people. It was raised to the right people. Decisions were made. I know some might not agree with it. And then the bottom line, what we were talking about a few weeks ago was, I know there might be a lot of frustrations at us here on the board because we're within the community. And, but the problem is that we have to follow the guidelines and policies. And that's what we did. Now there are those that don't agree with it, which is fine, but we mentioned a few weeks ago that we want to make sure that there is possible for change, but it requires more legislation through the state, and unfortunately not through us, because we're just following the policies and procedures and making sure everyone's safe and has fair opportunity. And like I said, I think we did a tremendous job, and I'm proud of the board. I'm proud of all of us. Back to community lift and the budget, again, hoping to see more in the next two meetings, because it looks like we have a tall task, and it's gonna require a community lift for our teachers, faculty, our students to grow, develop, have the resources they need. It looks like we all are going to have to ask the community to come together and make small sacrifices. Yes, please come see if we can squeeze or pinch a few pennies here and there to burden the lift that we're going to have to provide for the school. But I think it's, like Pete said, we have to pay the piper. And we're going to try to make sure in the future that it's not going to be as severe. So that's what I got. Community lift.
Go ahead.
You sure?
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna mix it up tonight, that'd be torturous. As fun as that feels, I have the right to do it.
Okay, great, thanks. So I just want to say thank you to Connie and Jordan. I'm sad seeing that on the agenda, but also exciting at the same time. It has been delightful working with both of you over the years, and will definitely be missed. So thank you for everything you've done. We appreciate you. In the sports world, congratulations to our girls. Was it 4x2? Sectional champs, and going on to state qualifiers this Saturday, which is pretty cool. I also heard the boys also won sectional patches, and some records were set last Saturday at the college at the sectional meet as well. So I'm excited to see some new names up on the wall, so congratulations to all of them. I'll echo a lot of what was already said. As far as the budget goes, I really hope everyone comes out and attends these meetings and asks questions. And honestly, we've lived through almost a year now of a contingency budget, and it's affected some more than others. If it hasn't affected you really at all, I would encourage you to talk to people that work here at the school, or people that are in the youth sports world, or people that are unable to use the facility as a result of the contingency budget. There are a lot of people that have been affected. So I would just encourage you, if you're really not sure what changes have happened this past year, to go out and get that information. And again, I just think that knowledge is power, and educating yourself before showing up for a vote is just such a powerful thing. So I truly do hope everyone takes advantage of those meetings that we have coming up. And have a good night.
So I really thought we were gonna have a bigger audience today. This is a big room for a small amount of people. Serving on this board is not something that I ever anticipated doing at this stage of my life. However, I do feel that I was called to step forward and do this job. I'm running again in the upcoming year, so I figured this was a really good time to have this conversation. I've had time, commitment, and the desire to help our district to continue and grow and move forward, and I want to continue that again in May. While I'm not a classroom teacher or a district employee, I bring education, personal experience, and strong willingness to learn. Since becoming a board member, I have participated in many trainings. I've met with community and state leaders, studied policy, dedicated many hours to understanding the areas that I had not previously encountered. And I take this responsibility seriously, and I've sought out much of this education all on my own. I didn't ask, to go to some of these things. I just signed up on my own and went. So I've learned a lot about education on my own. When we serve on this board for the school district, our focus
must always be on what's best for the entire district. Not one individual, not one group, but all students, families, staff, community, and all the members within those groups. So together as a board, we've established goals and a vision for our district that center on student success, safety, and long-term stability. Every decision that we make is guided by that responsibility. I am incredibly proud to live in such an accomplished and engaged community. Many of you have all built such impressive careers, raised successful children, and invested deeply in this district. That we all share pride and in this school, and it's something that unites us all. Most recently, we've had a lot of strong emotions that have surfaced around certain issues that maybe we were going to discuss tonight, and I anticipated a large audience. But it's important to clarify that even though that audience isn't here, there still was a need to have this conversation. The school board does not create state health mandates. Vaccine requirements are established at a state level, and as a public school district, we're legally required to serve and follow those laws. Our administration team needs to ensure compliance with state policy while maintaining a safe and supportive environment. In times like this, accurate information and a respectful dialogue are essential. Misinformation and emotionally charged dialogue can easily create confusion and frustration. I encourage all of us to seek verified information and to engage in conversations that are constructive and solution-focused. Myself and 6 other board members sitting here took an oath to faithfully discharge the duties of this office. We're volunteers, but we're very committed volunteers. Sorry, I'm done. We do not manage the daily operations of this school, nor do we independently alter state law. Our responsibility is solely governance of setting policies, supporting our administration, and ensuring our district operates within legal and ethical guidelines. It is natural that we all may not agree on every situation, but in any strong community, we can overcome all these challenges. We do, however, share the same goal, the well-being and success of our children. Progress happens when community work together, even through disagreement. My hope is that we can continue building this trust, strengthening relationships, and focusing on what unites us rather than what divides us. Our district can be strongest when we approach challenges with respect, integrity, and commitment to truth. Our differences cannot become barriers to the important work ahead of us. A healthy community will always have differing perspectives, but unresolved conflict and ongoing resentment will prevent progress. We must move beyond division and commit to a more constructive and sustainable way of working together. There are significant decisions coming before this board in the months ahead, including matters that directly affect our district's budget, programming, staffing, and long-term stability with a new superintendent. While Rob has done a beautiful job moving us in a direction, we need to find his replacement. It's sad to say. The decisions we need to make as a community are going to impact every student and every family. When conflict consumes our focus, it is our children who ultimately bear the consequences, and I'm not willing to see them suffer. We do have to agree on every issue, but we don't have to agree on every issue, but we have a responsibility to model respectful dialogue, fact-based discussion, a responsible civic behavior. Let me remind you, our students are watching us. Our kids come home, they hear conversations at school, they hear conversations in the community, and we need to promote good conversation for them. The tone that we set as adults are the standards that they follow. If we want a culture of respect, accountability, and collaboration in our schools, the culture must begin with us. Productive conversations, even when difficult, are how positive change is made. Moving forward together is not optional. It is essential to the responsible governance of our district and the example that we set for our children. I want to thank you for listening to me go on. I
did write this down because I did not know if I'd be able to make it through without having a coughing fit. But your passion has fueled conversation that will promote change moving forward, and that's the community that's not here right now. I hope that this board can continue to build confidence within the community that we have wholeheartedly committed to this district. We hear you even when we need to be silent. I will continue to support the district, and I hope that tonight and our conversations have refueled your trust in knowing that we are doing our best. Thank you.
Well, I'm not as long-winded as Natalie. so-
Sorry.
Get a drink, man. Holy smokes.
So first, thank you, Connie, for your years of service to our district and serving us, and we've appreciated working with you for the last several years. So, thank you. It's not to beat the dead horse, but I will say that this issue that we've been talking about, I was more disappointed in our community than anything in the whole thing. Is more of the misinformation that was put out there and the fact that individuals in this district were attacked for basically doing their job at the end of the day. But one of those misinformations was that this board was divided and that there was only a few board members that were driving this. I'd say at no time did this board disagree with everybody agree with that the board, we asked a lot of tough questions. We weren't always happy with the direction that we had to go, but I felt this board was united through this whole thing. I think that says a lot, but that kind of disappointed me when that was put out in the community that the board was kind of divided on that. So that was something that I wanted to kind of straighten out because that could have been further from the truth. Because I thought we all worked very hard on this, and like I said, we never liked the direction we had to go. At the end of the day, we had to look into laws and do what was right for the district. I feel like we did that. We didn't like it, but we did it. So with that being said, I want to congratulate the indoor track team with all their sectional titles. And here we are talking about Mr. Bueller again. How do you do that? The fact that you can have a coach that has that success from year to year, you can have coaches that can coach exceptional athletes and do good, but you don't get those athletes every year. And it's very obvious what Mr. Bueller is able to do is develop athletes. And that's something that, sad to say, at the high school level doesn't happen often. You get coaches that can coach good kids, but for somebody to have success year after year after year, like we're not just breeding track stars in this town. Those are developed kids that are coming through, and so great for those kids and all those kids that have worked hard and put in the work. And thank you, Mr. Bueller, for the time that he puts into that. Because it's obvious, just you can't have success year after year without that development. And getting those kids to work hard. You drive around and you see these kids. As soon as the snow starts to melt, you're going to see these kids running all over town every day. It's great to see. But congratulations to them. And hopefully next month we'll be talking about sectional championships. Our basketball teams in Bravo and swim team. Who's swim team?
Swim team's done.
Okay.
They finished second over GRNL league, which they don't really do the girls swim team and one boy this year, but the girls swim team can't really go to sectionals because they're not really in a it's a very odd sectional scenario, but they did very well.
Congratulations to the swim team that we probably won't talk about
Yeah. Did you see Tori Davis in the parents court? What did she win?
I'm on social media, so I am.
Oh, nice.
She ended up
She was
winning.
faster. What was
Athlete,
that?
GR Athlete of the Week, was it?
Yeah.
Athlete of the Week? Yeah.
And of the meet, so.
Yeah, swimmer of the meet for GR league meet and the GRNO, and something that she was very hard at.
Thanks, Pete.
Okay, I did prepare too because I can't go on tangents. I can easily do that. So
Hopefully yours is not as long.
it's not as long as Nicholas. Oh no, it's printed out the same.
It's short.
Oh no, this is gonna be just long.
Oh, God.
I'm not gonna, be redundant about it. I think we're on the same page, and I do appreciate everybody here. And I wish there was more participation. And community, grew up here, went to school here, left, came back, and I know a lot of people, and I'm incredibly surprised that I can count on one hand how many people ask me a question about the incredibly difficult scenario that we have been in and been faced with, and I am just floored by that. And I guess I don't know if that's good or bad, but I hope that people come to us. I don't think we're unapproachable people, and we're all doing this the best we can, but I'm just really surprised. And on the handful of people that I did talk to, I reached out to them to seek information on how people are feeling or what the sentiment is, and I appreciate the feedback because I look for that, and I hope in the future that we can all be self-driven to educate ourselves in the best possible way, whether that's speak to board members, go to other boards, go to different boards and ask questions. But I think if you don't know and you don't ask, I think you're doing an injustice to yourself and to the cause you might be fighting for. So I hope that more people communicate. I hope that more people participate. And I think that I've always been a big proponent of, the village, the town, the school. I think we are such a small knit community, and I really think we need to be more communicative and talk and be willing to collaborate. I think that's something that we miss. And learning to agree to disagree, I think, as a society, maybe Pete mentioned in previous meetings, I think we need to do better. I think we all recognize we're very educated people. I sit with 6 other incredibly educated, diverse people that I appreciate their time, appreciate the administration, for all your expertise. Everybody here, I really have a hard time unlearning or uneducating myself about something, and I just don't think that's okay. So I'm not going to apologize for that, and I'm very empathetic to a lot of situations. I think you're all very thoughtful people, but I did want to just take a quick, that was not scripted, but I just want to give us a reminder of what our oath that we took as board members, and I did write this down because I reflect on this, and when I struggle, I try to go back to the things that kind of bring me back to a scenario. And that oath for school board member, it is incredibly important. We took this oath guided by the expectations outlined in the New York State Education Department. We made a promise, not just legally, but a public one to everyone. I personally reflect on that oath often as we continually face with decisions that we have to make day after day. We're committed to serve with integrity, which is a big word for me, to follow the law and place the needs of all students, and the community above our own individual viewpoints. As board members, I think our roles are often misunderstood. I didn't know half as much, and I think, again, I'm in my 2nd term, and I am feeling just now like I'm getting the ability to be productive. And I think it's tough. These terms are hard, but I really think that first term, you're kind of just learning the ways, you're figuring out what to do, and you're kind of understanding how things work, and you realize, holy cow, this is nothing what I anticipated. But I think that's hard. That's hard to do. And if you've ever been on a board, people understand the things that you can and can't do, and what you can talk about, what you can't, and the decisions you face as we make decisions based on information given to us, and it changes. And I've said this in previous meetings. We make a decision, and the next day something can change, and we have to act on that decision. But that's the nature of being on a board. And if you don't know, ask people questions. I understand that it creates confusion about how decisions can be made, and I feel bad. I do appreciate people not understanding that, but you can figure some things out and ask people questions. You don't know what you don't know, and seeking out information to other members, other boards is also a nice option. We're here to set direction, to ask where the district's going. I often say it's like a ship. You can't turn the Titanic, and I don't like to use the Titanic, but I do. It's a big ship, and you can't turn it in a day. What opportunities we want for every student that walks through these doors to establish policies, creating clear, fair rules that guide how our schools operate, and to ensure the consistency. And that's, I think, something we talk about at this board a lot, consistency among the schools, the leadership here. I think that's something that is a big focus for us. We oversee the finances, recognizing what every dollar is spent and comes from the taxpayers that we represent, and every decision that we must reflect carefully the stewardship of the public funds. We hire and evaluate the superintendent. We currently have this process going on. It's a tough but yet exciting scenario. Rob, we do have to replace you, as Natalie said, and you know, that's something that's a heavy lift. It's a heavy lift, and it's very serious. And I think I'm incredibly happy to be serving with these members up here to help go through that process. We were going to entrust this individual with day-to-day operations and the leadership of this district while holding that leadership accountable for results. And importantly, we're here to represent our community, to listen, to engage respectfully, and to bring forward the voices of students, parents, staff, and residents, even those with voices that are critical and very divided. But with that representation comes responsibility to work as a team. And I am a team person. I think being on a team is incredibly important. No single member on this board governs alone. Our authority only exists when we deliberate openly, vote collectively, and respect the decisions of each board member and the board as a whole. I'm very proud, and as a lot of us have said, proud of the situations, although it's difficult and it's not always fun, and we didn't love the direction we had to go, but I'm very proud of the difficulty in the decision we make in these situations. In times of disagreement or heightened concern, it can be easy to lose sight of these boundaries and responsibility. But this oath that we took calls us back, reminding us not to react emotionally, but to lead thoughtfully, not to amplify the division, but hopefully to model respectful governance, and to serve not to serve personal interests, but the long-term success of our students. And this is a long game. This is a long game for I think all of us. The financial long game, the collaboration long game. To the community, we're grateful for you. We hear you. Your engagement reflects how you care about the students, the school, and your fellow residents. To the board members who I sit next to, our shared commitment must remain clear. We need to continue to govern responsibly, act ethically, and keep our students and all stakeholders at the center of every decision we make. I want to give a simple reminder to everyone that there's a lot of members of this board that were on the during COVID scenario. And I thought that was difficult at the time. And I'm going to tell you, I don't want to say I wish it back, but that's tough. That reminder, we push the limits. We push the limits within our abilities, and I am very proud of what we did, and everybody in the school, down from the administration, the teachers, the faculty, our nurses, our students, we all were able to make this school remain open 5 days a week, and that is because a lot of this board pushed those guidelines. Those were guidelines, those were not laws. Those were guidelines, and we pushed to the maximum, and it wasn't easy, but we did it. It took many people to make that happen. And that's the work, that's the promise, and that's the duty that we accepted and we took our oath. I'm very, very proud of that. Thank you all. Go Hornets. Connie, thank you. Thank you, Jordan. Thank everybody for the retirement and the years, and I will miss you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
It was long, sorry.
It's all good. I hate the microphone, so this will be short for me. Okay, so I'm gonna start with Connie, Jordan, congrats, and thank you. I say congrats because you know what? It is a marker of the end of an amazing career, and you know, on to the next things. I look forward to retirement, so I'm excited for you, and let's not look at it as a sad thing at all. But thank you for all you've given to the school, really, it's amazing. Okay, so where to begin? I guess I'm gonna start, I'm gonna try not to echo everything we've talked about here, but I guess I will say this. I think that there's a lot of ways this conversation could go, and I think one of the things I try to keep in mind, you know, and as I operate from day to day, is curiosity is a core value. It's absolutely a core value of mine, and I think it's a core value that we've got to reestablish in America today, frankly. Having a little bit of curiosity to go out and seek information is a very powerful thing, and I think it's the thing we try to teach our students in school every day, right? How do we step into the school? How do we step into every single day and open our minds and open our hearts to different ways of thinking and learning from one another? And you know, it doesn't stop with what's in a textbook. It's about how we engage with one another, how we have open dialogue, how open discourse happens, and I think it's a lost art, right? It's a thing we have to remember and relearn and reteach our children and reteach adults. And I think, you know, it's disappointing to me, honestly, and I will use the word disappointing, that more people didn't come out, considering, you know, what we've heard heard, we've read, and I think it's important to remember this, right? At the end of the day, all of us know, that every single person sitting up here knows that we were voted by this community, and we're appreciative of that, and we don't forget it. But at the end of the day, we're also volunteering our time, we're taking time away from our kids, our families, and every single person is sitting here with the best interest of this district at heart. I can tell you that from the time I've been sitting here, there's not a single person that's operating from a place of what they're getting out of it, and I can tell you, we give way more than we get. And in return, I think it's important to keep in mind that these people are all humans, just as the people online that you guys are supporting and helping from a community perspective are people. We are people too, and we're giving up a lot of time and a lot from a community standpoint to help support where we go as a district. And I think sometimes people forget that. It's easy to forget, and when you start talking about a collective group, right? The teachers, the students, the board, the administrators. It's really easy to lump us all into a category and start to stereotype and start to forget that at the end of the day, we're talking about people. And I think there's a lot of things that are being thrown around that sort of are not necessarily rooted in full truths, and I think it's disappointing to kind of hear that come from any group of people. And I think it's important that if you have those feelings, that you are in a place where there's a constructive dialogue to work those things out, and they don't become so personal that we forget that there's humans attached to the end of these situations, and we remember it, right? Like, none of those decisions that have taken place are things we took lightly. And absolutely, if we could go change the law, we would love to march in and be able to make those decisions. But unfortunately, the role of a board, I think we forget sometimes too, boards are here to govern. Whether you're working for a school, you're sitting on a youth sports league, or you're working for a nonprofit. Those are all here to govern, and there's laws and there's policies and there are bylaws that are already given to us, and we're really working within the confines of those things. So, anyone who knows me also knows I can be pretty cynical, and I also love to go rogue. So I can promise you that if there were ways for us to find loopholes, as Jackie mentioned in the bylaws conversation or the guidance, like, we found those, right? And so we're open to creative thinking and working where we can, but there are some cases where that's just absolutely not possible. And not to belabor the points that this group has made, but I think please do your best to remember, like, we're here, we're working to serve everybody in this district, and we do have everyone's best interest in mind. Sometimes we can't make every singular individual happy. That's just the unfortunate reality when you're working with collectives, and we're doing the best we can. But I am proud of this group, and I appreciate from all of the roles that I play and areas that I've served, this group of people truly, I can tell you, is operating with the most integrity, the utmost best interest of the kids in mind at the center, in the forefront, and they're asking all the right questions about community impacts and how we're helping to serve those that don't have kids in school and what we can do better. Like, there's not a moment that we leave this room and think our jobs are done. We're always trying to do better for the groups that we're serving. So, open discourse, open conversation. Let's keep it positive and have it in a place where it's constructive. And the internet doesn't help you get the answers you want sometimes. Let's talk with real people. So, I don't know. That's what I got.
Thanks, everyone. Based on your responses today, it's quite clear that you came prepared. Just like any other meeting, we were prepared to welcome an audience that we were going to have a discourse with. We did our best to acknowledge the situation and prepare in a way that was respectful, not confrontational. You can't see it from this video, but as you enter, before you get into this auditorium, we have information that's out there. We have sign-up sheets that are out there. We've provided digital access to any questions that the community may or may not have had in regards to the situation. At no point in our time here for the last 6 or 7 months have we ever been against this group of people. In fact, my wife drove this young man to school 3 days a week, and he would even spend the night at our house. This has become personal to myself because they're our friends and they're part of our community. It's our intention to do our best to support them. Tonight, what I wanted to offer, and I still do offer, is a way that we can come together, and if people are willing or interested, develop an advocacy group where we can look at the exclusions that are in place by the state, and then try to determine what is it that we agree with or disagree with, and then present a letter or perhaps a petition at the state level to help us come together. I still support this family, the people that were here at our last meeting, but I want to do it in a way that's factual, and that's what we're trying to do tonight. I think on another note, we as a board, each of us individually received an anonymous letter last week. This letter has nothing to do with the situation of the medical health exemption. It had to do with an event that occurred many years ago and was anonymous. And at the conclusion of the letter, there was threats of going to the media. Well, we're not acknowledging that. If you have a complaint or an issue with the school district, please reach out. Please give us your name. We will do our best to meet with you in a civil way, acknowledge what your difference is, and if we have to correct our actions, then we're going to correct them. This board has worked hard to correct their actions. We're in the hunt for a new superintendent right now. We're working. I think together, I believe in what we decided we believe upon a couple of years ago, and I'm going to read the beliefs that we all agreed to. We believe that we are the navigators of challenge. We believe we will create a climate of trust and respect in our school community. We believe that we will focus on effective communication. We believe we set goals that are measurable. We believe we consider the fiscal impact of our decisions. We believe that we will create policy that ensures the district runs in a way that's efficient and effective. We believe that we will do our best to foster a culture of personal accountability. We truly believe that we will do best for all the students. We will also acknowledge and appreciate jobs that are well done. We will do our best and believe that we are going to be involved in our school community, and that we believe that problems should be solved at the lowest level possible before coming to us. But when they do come to us, we will do our best to not just support you, but all the students in our community. So I'd like to say thank you. Please, please, please continue to participate. I appreciate Rob Z for setting this up. I know this wasn't easy. Fady, you did a lot of legwork to get all of this organized. I appreciate that as well. Rob and Laura, thank you again for handling everything coming our way. It's been a lot of work and a lot of time to get tonight the way it is. So thank you. It is now 7:35. Can I get a motion to close the meeting?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Maria and Kevin, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Enjoy your evening tonight, guys.